usually comparing remakes to each other is completely pointless. Either it's a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Godzilla situation where the original is obviously superior, or it's a Little Shop of Horrors Ocean's 11 type situation where the remake is so superior that you may have just learned that those were remakes. Very rarely is there an actual debate, but that is the case with The Wages of Fear and Sorcerer. All about a group of desperate men who agree to transport dangerous nitroglycerin across unsteady terrain. And they are both incredible films. They're both considered classic suspense movies. But which one is better? That's what art is about. Who wins? Disclaimer, yeah, I'm declaring a winner, but this is mostly just an excuse to analyze two films I really love, and I just wanted to give it a title that people would actually click on. What can I say? People on the internet, they love negativity. Leave your hate comments in the box down below, and make sure to not like and don't subscribe. So I'm gonna break this down into 3 general categories. The main ways in which these two films differ in terms of their writing are the themes and the structure. So that's mostly what I'm going to be talking about here. So let's start with the structure because it's the first thing you're going to notice about both films. They both have a weird, unconventional pace to them. The Wages of Fear really takes its time to let you get to know each of the 4 central characters. Joe, Bimba, Mario, and Luigi.
Hey, Mario!
For the first 30 or so minutes, you're just in this small, impoverished town. See, Joe is new here, and so Mario is showing him around, and by extension, showing the audience around. And as this is going on, you really get a sense of how hopeless the situation is for everyone living here. So when this mission involving the nitroglycerin arises, you care about the characters and you want to see them make it out alive. Sorcerer takes a similar but very different approach. The film shows how the 4 central characters each got into this impoverished town. One's a hitman, one's a resistance fighter, one's an Irish-American gangster, all the archetypes. And I'm kind of conflicted with which approach I enjoy more. The most obvious knock against Sorcerer is that these backstories aren't necessary. There's a reason The Wages of Fear doesn't get into them. And that's true, but it does result in a much brisker pace for the opening of the movie. Because you're jumping around so much and you're getting so much information so fast, it just creates a more active viewing experience, whereas The Wages of Fear, it opens up and you're explained a lot of things.
Ici, il n'y en a pas un qui a un job. On a des coupures, des combines. On arrive à croûter et à s'en jeter un de temps en temps. C'est tout.
Mais pourquoi vous vous barrez pas?
C'est pas l'envie qui manque, tu verras. C'est ça qui tue, c'est trop grand. Pour se retrouver dehors, faudrait un sacré élan, tu sais.
Prenez le dur.
Il n'y a pas de chemin de fer.
La route.
Il y en a qu'une, elle s'arrête au puits de pétrole.
L'avion.
Vise un peu les tarifs.
And it's not bad. I'm not saying it's like forced exposition or anything. It just feels a little slow. And normally I like that sort of thing. I like movies that take their time and aren't afraid to be slow paced. But in Sorcerer, you're learning along with the characters and that just makes it more engaging. But that being said, plot efficiency and pacing are not the end-all be-all of storytelling. The constant scenes explaining and showcasing how downtrodden the town is in Wages of Fear might seem repetitive at first, but they're effective. If you cut it down to just one scene or one bit of dialogue, sure, you wouldn't be confused on the logic of the story, but would you feel it? Stories should work on an emotional level as well as a logical level. Now that argument could also work in favor of Sorcerer. Sure, these backstories aren't necessary, but they could add something. They really don't. You don't really get much more out of the literal events that led up to them arriving in this town. And that approach of prioritizing pacing in Sorcerer, it ends up sacrificing a few story beats that really should have more focus. Like in The Wages of Fear, there are numerous scenes about recruiting who is going to go on the mission. They showed the process of this oil company discovering the problem, working out how they're going to solve it, and weeding out all the people who volunteer for this mission. And in the process, showing their complete disregard for all these people that are gonna kill themselves on their behalf. In Sorcerer, they do have these scenes, but they're not really focused on, and they leave a very small impression. So small that I actually, when originally writing the notes for this video, I forgot that these scenes existed. However, that's not really what Sorcerer is going for. The Wages of Fear, as the title implies, is about capitalism. How far people will go against their own survival instinct just for a chance to escape poverty. Sorcerer, as the title, is about how scary the concept of fate can be. There's a reason they follow these particular characters' lives from well before they really needed to. And it's the reason they don't focus as much as weeding out all the potential candidates. I'll get to this more in the directing portion of the video, but you can even see it in when they announce the mission. There's all these zoom ins on all these characters. The movie's almost presenting it as if they were destined by fate to go on this mission. So like I said, it's tough to compare these films. Yeah, they're the same story, but they have different goals. Let's take a look at the ending of both movies. Spoilers if you haven't already guessed. I recommend both these movies if it wasn't already obvious. The Wages of Fear ends with every single person but Mario dying on the mission. And he's so happy that he made it out alive, and he's happy that he'll get to see his wife again. And he starts, swerving the truck back and forth wildly, and I'm sure you can already see where this is going. He crashes and dies. It is a gut punch, but it's really predictable. As soon as he does one of these big ass turns, you know exactly where the movie's going. Whereas Sorcerer sees Jackie survive the mission, and he gets back just fine, and he shares a nice dance, and then the Irish mafia kingpin from his opening segment returns to kill him. Both endings try to get across the same idea, this gut punch sense of hopelessness that this whole mission was for naught. And it's tragic that the one survivor died not long after the mission was completed due to unrelated circumstances. But I feel like the ending of Sorcerer does this in a more interesting way. Tying back to one of the opening vignettes is a neat way to tie the whole film together and make those vignettes feel a bit more important. And it's not incredibly predictable once it's set up. Not to say that the ending of Wages is bad in any way. It is still a very good ending. The fact that you can see what's coming actually adds a bit of dread to the ending. Every time he's doing one of these swerves, you're going, no, just calm down, buddy, calm down. But I think the surprise ending of Sorcerer just works a bit better in my opinion. It is a tough choice, like I said, and this may come as a bit of a shock because most of this segment was me praising Sorcerer, I think, but I'm going to give this category to The Wages of Fear. The opening, while paced slowly, really earns you caring for these characters. And while I think the ending is weaker than Sorcerer, it's by no means a huge negative on the film. And I think what made me ultimately choose Wages of Fear are those scenes of choosing who is going to go on the mission. There are so many scenes that are just lost in Sorcerer that I think were important and I really enjoyed. Like the scene where the oil company guy gives this speech about what the mission is going to be and is very blunt about what he thinks of all these people.
It's murder. Condition of the roads, your drivers haven't got a 50-50 chance.
Keep trying till one gets through. That'll be enough.
And you think the union's going to just sit back and let you go ahead?
The hell with the union. There are plenty of tramps in town, all volunteers. I'm not worried. To get that bonus, they'll carry the entire charge on their backs.
You mean you're going to put those bums to work?
Yes, Mr. Bradley, because those bums don't have any union.
In fact, this whole character is on the nose, but I really love him.
The Safety Commission's coming out to see you this afternoon. Yeah. Give them a good meal and plenty of liquor. Put all the blame on the victim.
There's this bit of drama where Joe begs to go on the mission because he knows he was only rejected because of his age.
Pour ce qui est du volant, tu sais ce que je vaux. Alors quoi?
To a troview, Joe. And Wowsy. Nous en avons trop fait. We were 20 years younger, I'd have gone myself, and I would have gone with you.
And my favorite is this scene right before they're about to leave, where they just kind of have a nice time, and it's a nice calm before the storm moment. Ultimately, Sorcerer just isn't as strong character-wise, which is why I'm giving the better writing award to Wages of Fear. I guess that's what this is. I don't talk about directing enough in my videos. Shot composition, blocking, editing, that sort of stuff. I only usually talk about directing when it's bad, but let's change that. The Wages of Fear is very of the time. It lets its shots linger. It only cuts when necessary. But that is kind of thrown out the window when it comes to the hazard scenes, as I'll call them. They are exemplary in their editing. For example, you'll notice as the two trucks are about to hit each other, the cuts start speeding up. Even without audio, you can tell something bad is about to happen. And then suddenly, the cuts die down, signifying that the problem is over.
Look, the problem is over.
And also, I just want to point out two small things. I just love the way that the movie switches trucks so effortlessly. We go from a shot inside one truck to a shot of one truck looking at another, then to a shot of that truck looking back at the other truck, and then inside this truck to Luigi and Bimba. And this is the exact kind of invisible directing that you're not going to notice unless you're looking for it, but it just adds an incredible flow to the scenes and shots. Like, just look what happens if I remove these transitionary shots in the edit. See, much worse. I'm right, trust me. I love the way the trucks are lit from the inside at night. This very dim lighting really highlights the isolation and alienation that they're going on this mission. The rotted wood scene is so great at conveying the height they risk falling from. Like, there's all these shots framed from below or framed from up high, and they also subtly establish this line here by always including it in frame in shots that are otherwise unrelated, so that when this happens, you're not confused where that came from or what that does. And I absolutely love the way they portray the deaths of Luigi and Bimba. I don't love their names, but Joe and Mario are having a conversation, and then suddenly
Luigi. Il n'y a plus Luigi.
it's really sudden and abrupt, but that is exactly what makes it so tragic. And then comes the oil scene, and just Christ. I don't even know how to really describe this scene. It's just so harrowing. Basically, this pool of oil has branches in it that are beneath the surface. You wouldn't see them unless you knew to look out for them, which is what led to the death of Luigi. So Joe goes to clean the branches away, but he gets stuck. And not wanting the truck to stall, Mario just goes ahead and drives forward.
Here we go!
And just the way they frame Joe from a high angle to make him look so small, and they frame the truck as so big that it's cut off by the edge of the frame. Like I said, it's a harrowing display of just how powerless Joe is in this situation. And one last thing, it's not even particularly deep. I just love the way the movie utilizes fire. Like, just look at some of these shots. It's pretty. Now on to Sorcerer, and I will list things I noticed about the directing. Right off the bat, I love how grimy everything is. This movie has that 70s movie grit to it. Everyone's sweaty, the sets are dingy, everything's dirty. Even the trucks themselves look less stable in this version, which just adds to the tension. This like down and dirty quality really sells the idea that they could just explode at any moment. And I also just love how much the camera moves here. There's all these tracking shots and they all look really nice. Occasionally they also cut to the actual nitroglycerin in the trucks, and it's a really nice touch to remind you of the ever-present danger. I also enjoy how Sorcerer takes more advantage of its environment. Like early on, they have to make a sharp turn and it's fucking sphincter tightening. Not even mentioning the iconic bridge crossing in the rain scene. The rain itself adding this chaotic element to every shot. Weather is such an underrated aspect of movies in my opinion. Just the fact that you know these raindrops never fell in the exact same way on any two given takes adds a spontaneity to all these shots. It feels like you just happened to capture this moment as it passed. It just makes the movie feel less controlled and sterile. So many movies just ignore weather completely. Like it's always a sunny day. There's never too much wind. So seeing these characters get rained on and like fall in the mud and get dirty, just it makes it feel like it takes place in the real world and not a fake movie world.
We're gonna cross that bridge, and you're gonna guide me. Because I can't do it alone.
And the sound design of the bridge as it creaks as well. This scene is regarded as iconic for a reason. The whole thing is just immaculate. But now for a bit of criticism. In Sorcerer, I'm not as in love with the death of Luigi and Bimba, Kasim and Victor. You see, in this version, they elect to show us how they die. And that is just so much less effective than the original. The fact that the original only implies their deaths and is way less violent just makes it more impactful. It really gets across the senselessness of their deaths. Here it just feels like a death in a movie scene, which seems like a weird criticism. And it kind of is. It's not a bad scene, but it's in comparison with the original, which is so affecting, this is lesser. Although I do enjoy what follows this with Jackie's descent into madness. As he's about to finish the journey and as he's the only one left standing, he starts hallucinating. This is an incredible addition to the story. It really gets across the mental toll that this journey has taken on them. It's a brilliant ending to the mission. And part of why I think this ending is better than the original is because of the way it's shot. The long zoom out on Jackie dancing to reveal the kingpin from earlier. It's a heartbreaking shot. So overall, these are two incredibly directed films. And they are so different. They both reflect the popular directing styles of their time, so it's a little hard to compare them. I keep saying that as if I didn't willingly choose to compare them as the premise for this video. Normally, I prefer the classic style of direction, but I think the more modern style, modern at the time at least, fits the story better. Like I said, the movement and pacing of shots gives them immediacy and urgency that helps convey this feeling that they truly could die at any moment. I really love the grit and grime of Sorcerer, and I think that adds a lot to its storytelling. So I'm gonna have to give this one to Sorcerer. And lastly, the most important category, Wages of Fear. Easy. Why is it called Sorcerer? The title of Sorcerer is like the reason it flopped in theaters. People thought it was a movie about a wizard. There is sort of a reason, both thematic and literal. Like one of the trucks is called Sorcerer, but if you haven't seen the movie, it just raises more questions than it answers. Wages of Fear wins easily. I'm kidding, of course. This isn't the last category, but Wages of Fear is a great title. Why didn't you just call it The Wages of Fate or something like...
Hello, Mario.
What the fuck? Sometimes you can get so involved in discussing the technical aspects of movie making that you forget the bigger picture. All this technique and craft is there to enhance the emotions of the story. So in this category, I'm just gonna judge which of these two movies had the bigger emotional impact on me. The Wages of Fear really gets its emotional power from the relationship between the two central characters, Mario and Luigi. Fuck! Mario and Joe. Mario starts the film by showing Joe around town when he arrives there, and they're paired together in their truck, so we get lots of conversations between the two. And it is fascinating to watch the arc that these two characters go on. Joe, if you'll remember, begged to go on this mission, insisting he wasn't too old for it. But that pretty quickly turns out to be a mistake. He pretty instantly starts feeling sick and they have to pull over. And this sets into motion the rift that forms between them. As the journey goes on, Mario continually prioritizes the mission over his relationship with Joe, culminating in the oil scene that you saw earlier. But even after that ultimate betrayal, Mario still helps Joe into the truck and brings him along. Because it's not that Mario thinks that Joe is a dumb boomer who needs to log off. He just needs the money. He can't risk being a good friend if it means jeopardizing the mission. He even tries to keep Joe awake so he won't die, but eventually letting him rest.
Hey Joe, oui, un peu, on a gagné. Joe, mon frère. T'as raison, va. Pique un petit roupillon.
It's a hauntingly beautiful conclusion to these two characters' journeys. And it perfectly reflects the themes of the film. You know, there's a quote about music that goes something like, music thinks... Words make you think thoughts, music makes you feel emotion, and songs make you feel thoughts. And when that applies to movies, that's when you can tell that a film has a really strong theme. I don't just like the theme because I agree with it. You know, big corporations will always prioritize the bottom line over humanity. I like the movie because I feel that. I feel just how far these men go against every bit of survival instinct and humanity they have just for a chance to escape extreme poverty. And that's exactly what I want from a film. So what does Sorcerer got? Sorcerer really tries to amplify the hopelessness of the original. The fact that fate can turn on you at any moment and how terrifying that is. You know, none of us know when we're going to die or have something horrible happen to us. And you can feel it, you know, every bump, every scrape, every little tiny obstacle, you feel it. Or as William Friedkin put it when explaining the title, the Sorcerer is an evil wizard. And in this case, the evil wizard is fate. What? But which thought do I feel more? This is a serious video. I ultimately have to give it to The Wages of Fear. They are both incredible films without a doubt, but The Wages of Fear is just more affecting. It stays with you more than Sorcerer does. So I'm gonna have to go with The Wages of Fear. So The Wages of Fear wins! It's better, objectively. I proved it! Thank you for watching. If you want more film analysis or reviews or just some goofy shenanigans, click subscribe and like or whatever, I guess. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go deliver this small box of nitroglycerin to a friend's house. So I'll be right back.